Mother and wheelchair-bound daughter were kicked out of their home by the husband, but she had a plan. Jennifer Barnes watched the raindrops trickle down the window of the small hospital room where her 11-year-old daughter Emily was admitted. For the third time that month, the treatment for the rare neuromuscular condition that had left the girl wheelchair-bound 2 years earlier was draining not only the family's savings, but also the patience of Michael, her husband. That's when her phone buzzed with a message she had been dreading. "Enough. I can't take it anymore. When you get back, I won't be home. Take the girl somewhere else." Jennifer felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. It wasn't the first threat, but something in the tone of that message told her Michael had reached his limit. Clutching the phone in her trembling hands, she looked at Emily, who slept peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing in their lives. Jennifer took a deep breath. Her husband didn't know, but she had been preparing for this moment for months. This wouldn't be the end. It would be the beginning of something Michael could never have imagined. Emily's diagnosis had completely changed their family dynamic. Jennifer, a dedicated Portuguese teacher at a public school in Asheville, a mountain region near New York City, had reduced her hours to accompany her daughter to therapies and doctor's appointments. Michael, a sales manager at a car dealership, had seemed understanding at first, but his patience wore thin as the medical bills piled up. "Another test, Jennifer?" Michael would ask, waving prescriptions and medical orders in one hand while holding a beer in the other. "Don't you see we're going broke because of this girl?" "Don't talk like that, Michael. Emily is our daughter," Jennifer would reply, keeping her voice low so the girl in the next room wouldn't hear. "These tests are necessary. Dr. Thompson explained we need to monitor the progression of her condition. Thompson, that's all you ever talk about. I bet he gets a commission for every test he orders." Those arguments had become routine over the last few months. Jennifer tried to shield Emily from the fights, but the girl, sensitive and observant, could feel the growing tension. On good days, Emily still managed to smile and play, drawing for hours in her special notebook, a gift from her art teacher, who had recognized her talent, while Jennifer graded papers for the few students she still taught. On bad days, when the pain in her legs became unbearable even with medication, Emily would cry softly, and Michael would lock himself in his office, claiming he couldn't work with that annoying crying. "Mama," Emily called out one afternoon after a particularly painful episode, "does Daddy still love us?" The question hit Jennifer like a punch. "Of course he does, sweetheart. He's just tired and stressed about work." But the truth was Jennifer was starting to doubt it too. Michael came home later and later, always smelling of alcohol. Their credit card statement showed charges at bars and restaurants, while he complained about the cost of Emily's medication. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot for those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. It was on one of those nights when Michael came home particularly agitated that Jennifer made a quiet decision. She waited until her husband fell asleep and then, hands shaking, photographed the bank statement she found in his work folder. A monthly transfer to someone named Jessica caught her eye. It wasn't the first time she'd seen that name. The next day, after dropping Emily off at physical therapy, Jennifer drove to the bank. Using the power of attorney that Michael had signed years before, when trusting each other still came naturally, she opened a separate account in her name. She decided that from then on, she would set aside a portion of her salary in that account without Michael knowing. "It's just a precaution," she told herself, trying to ease the guilt she felt. After all, wasn't that what she had always taught her students, that a woman should have financial independence? For the next 3 months, Jennifer followed through with her secret plan. With every paycheck she received, she deposited 30% into the hidden account. She also began tutoring on weekends while Michael went out with his friends. That money went entirely into the emergency fund. Emily didn't understand why her mother always seemed so tired, but she loved it when Jennifer sat on the edge of her bed and told stories about warrior princesses who fought dragons to save their kingdoms. "You're just like those princesses, you know," Jennifer would say, tucking the blanket around her daughter's motionless legs. "So brave and strong." "But they can walk, Mom, and I can't." "What matters isn't your legs, Emily. It's your heart. And yours is the bravest I know. On that rainy night at the hospital, staring at Michael's message, Jennifer knew her small emergency fund wouldn't be enough to start a new life with Emily. The medications, therapies, and adaptations her daughter needed would cost far more than she had managed to save. But she also knew she couldn't go back home. Not after that message. With trembling hands, she called the only person who might be able to help them, Mrs. Wilson, the principal of the school where she taught. The 60-year-old woman, who had never had children but treated her teachers like family, answered on the second ring. "Jennifer, is everything all right with Emily?" "Mrs. Wilson," her voice faltered, "I need help." In a few words, Jennifer explained the situation. On the other end of the line, Mrs. Wilson listened in silence, interrupting only to ask clarifying questions. "Bring Emily to my house as soon as she's discharged," the principal finally said. "I have a guest room on the ground floor that we can adapt temporarily. You'll stay there until we find a better solution." 3 days later, Emily was discharged from the hospital. Jennifer didn't tell her daughter about her father's message, only that they would spend a few days at Mrs. Wilson's house while Michael was away on a business trip. The girl, still weak from her hospital stay, didn't question it. When they arrived at the principal's home, a simple but cozy 2-story house in Asheville's historic district, Jennifer realized Mrs. Wilson had done more than just offer a room. The makeshift ramp at the entrance, the support bars in the ground floor bathroom, the bed adjusted to the right height for wheelchair transfers, everything had been adapted for Emily. "How did you manage this so quickly?" Jennifer asked, moved. "My nephew is a physical therapist, remember? He guided me, and I called in a few friends to help. It's not perfect, but it should do for now." Emily smiled for the first time in days. "It looks like a princess's room," she said, noticing the pastel walls and the small desk Mrs. Wilson had placed near the window, with drawing supplies neatly arranged in colorful jars. That night, after putting Emily to bed, Jennifer sat with Mrs. Wilson on the small back porch. The rain had let up, and the cool mountain air carried the scent of wet earth and flowers. "Does Michael know you're here?" Mrs. Wilson asked, pouring chamomile tea for both of them. "No, I just left a note saying Emily was discharged and that we'd be somewhere safe. I turned off my phone. You know this is only temporary, right?" "Eventually he'll find out." Jennifer nodded, gripping her cup tightly. "I have a plan. It's not much, but it's a start." She told Mrs. Wilson about the secret account and the private lessons she had been teaching. "If I can get more students, and maybe go back to teaching full-time, eventually I could rent a small place for the two of us. And what about Emily's treatment?" The question hit Jennifer like a bolt of lightning. The health insurance was corporate, tied to Michael's job. Without it, how would she pay for the therapies and medications? Sensing her despair, Mrs. Wilson placed a hand on hers. "There's Medicare. It's not perfect, we know, but it's a right. And I know people who can help us navigate the system. Besides, I have a proposal for you." Mrs. Wilson's proposal was simple. The public school where Jennifer worked had an opening for a curriculum coordinator, a position that paid considerably more than her current role as a teacher. Mrs. Wilson had been holding the spot, waiting for Jennifer to be in a position to take it. "I always knew you were capable of this," the principal said. "I just wanted Emily's situation to stabilize first." "But what about the absences to take Emily to her appointments?" "We can adjust your schedule. And now that the school has received funding for accessibility, Emily can study there where you can be close by." It was a light at the end of the tunnel. Jennifer felt her eyes welling up. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Michael won't take this easily, you know. Men like him can't stand losing control." "I know." Jennifer sighed, looking at the moon peeking through the clouds. "But for Emily, I'm ready to fight." What Jennifer didn't know was that the battle would begin much sooner than she expected. The next morning, as she prepared breakfast for Emily in Mrs. Wilson's kitchen, she heard a car screech to a stop in front of the house, followed by violent pounding on the door. "I know you're in there. Open this door, or I'll break it." "Down!" Michael's voice, twisted with anger, made Jennifer's blood run cold. Emily, who was in the living room flipping through a book, looked at her mother with wide, fearful eyes. "Don't worry, sweetheart," Jennifer tried to smile, her heart racing. Stay here, I'll talk to your dad. Mrs. Wilson, coming down the stairs at that moment, signaled for Jennifer to wait. Let me handle this. This is my house, and he needs to understand that. The principal opened the door with the dignity of someone who had run a school for over 2 decades. Michael, unshaven and red-eyed, seemed surprised to see her. "Where's my wife and my daughter?" he demanded, trying to peer over Mrs. Wilson's shoulder. "Good morning to you too, Michael," Mrs. Wilson replied calmly but firmly. "Yes, Jennifer. And Emily are staying here, and they'll continue to until you calm down and are ready to talk civilly." "I don't have to calm down. They're my family, and you have no right to—" "I have every right to offer shelter to those in need, especially when that person receives a message kicking them out of their home with a sick child." Michael paled. Jennifer must have shown him the message. "That was a misunderstanding. I was stressed." "Misunderstandings don't throw mothers and daughters out into a rainy night," Mrs. Wilson said, unyielding. "Now you have 2 choices. Leave and come back when you're sober and calm, or I call the authorities. You wouldn't do that. Try me." Mrs. Wilson's eyes burned with determination. "I have security cameras at my front door, Michael. Your behavior is being recorded." It was a lie. There were no cameras. But Michael, confused and still reeling from the previous night's drinking, took a step back. "Tell Jennifer this isn't over," he threatened, pointing a finger. "That girl is my daughter too." "A daughter you called that girl in your message." Mrs. Wilson shot back. "Now go, and only come back when you can treat your family with the respect they deserve." When Mrs. Wilson closed the door, she found Jennifer Barnes standing in the hallway, pale as a sheet. "He'll come back," whispered Jennifer. "Yes, he will, but we'll be ready." In the days that followed, Jennifer began her new job as an educational coordinator. With Mrs. Wilson's help, she managed to enroll Emily in school where the girl started 5th grade. Having her mother in the same building gave Emily the confidence she needed to face the curious stares of her new classmates. First it was hard. Some children asked questions about the wheelchair, while others kept their distance as if Emily's condition were contagious. But Catherine, the art teacher, quickly noticed the girl's talent for drawing and began showcasing her creations, which slowly changed how her classmates saw her. "You draw better than anyone," exclaimed Ethan, a bespectacled boy who always seemed alone during recess, as he watched Emily sketch the perfect outline of a butterfly. The comment made Emily smile shyly. He was her first friend at the new school. While Emily adjusted, Jennifer faced her own challenges. Michael had hired a lawyer and was demanding shared custody, claiming Jennifer had kidnapped the girl. The case was moving through the courts, and Jennifer had to divide her time between her new job, caring for Emily, and meetings with her own attorney, referred by Mrs. Wilson. "He was always the family provider," Jennifer explained to attorney Sarah, a middle-aged woman with kind but sharp eyes. "Emily's health insurance is under his name. I'm afraid he'll use that as leverage." "That's a valid concern," the attorney agreed, taking notes. "But we have the message where he kicked you out of the house and witnesses to his aggressive behavior. Plus, we can request child support to ensure Emily gets the care she needs." "He'll hate that." "Probably. But this isn't about his feelings. It's about your daughter's rights." As the legal process dragged on, Jennifer stuck to her original plan. Every penny she saved went into the secret account, now with a clearer purpose: to find an affordable apartment where she and Emily could live, far from Michael and his mood swings. One Wednesday afternoon, while Emily was at her physical therapy session at the local Medicare clinic, Jennifer decided to visit some rental listings. Most were beyond her budget or lacked proper accessibility. Discouraged, she walked into a small real estate office downtown, more out of desperation than hope. "Good afternoon, can I help you?" asked a man in his 60s with graying hair and a friendly smile. "I'm looking for an apartment to rent." Jennifer hesitated. "For me and my daughter. She uses a wheelchair, so it would need to be accessible." The man, who introduced himself as Mr. Anderson, scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Accessible? And within what price range?" Jennifer named a figure, embarrassed at how low it was. To her surprise, Mr. Anderson's face brightened. "You know, I might have something. It's not exactly an apartment, more like a guest house in my backyard. My wife and I built it for my mother-in-law, who also used a wheelchair. She passed last year. I'm so sorry, Jennifer replied sincerely. She lived well till the end, Mr. Anderson said with a nostalgic smile. The place has been empty since. It has a ramp, an adapted bathroom, everything we built with her in mind. We never listed it because, well, it's hard letting strangers live so close, you know. Jennifer nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. But you seem like a good person, Mr. Anderson continued. And my wife is always complaining about the silence since the kids grew up and moved out. Maybe you'd like to see the place? That same afternoon, Jennifer visited the guest house. It was perfect. A small studio with a living area, compact, kitchen, a bedroom, and a fully adapted bathroom. The access ramp led to a tree-lined backyard, where a white-haired woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Gardner, the wife of Mr. Anderson, was pruning her rose bushes. "So you have a daughter?" asked Mrs. Gardner as she served lemonade on the main porch. "How old is she?" 11. She'll be 12 in August." "The same age as our granddaughter," the woman exclaimed excitedly. "She visits us during school breaks. I bet the two of them will get along." The proposed rent was almost symbolic, less than half of what Jennifer had budgeted. She knew she was being given a gift from fate. "Why are you doing this for us?" she asked, unable to hold back her emotion. "You barely know me." Mrs. Gardner and Mr. Anderson exchanged a knowing glance. "Let's just say we recognize a good soul when we see one," Mr. Anderson replied. "Besides, our oldest grandson is a physical therapist. He works at the municipal clinic and told us about a brave girl who never complains about the pain during her exercises, and her devoted mother, who reads stories to distract her during the toughest moments." Jennifer covered her face in surprise. "Matthew, he's your grandson." "The very one." Mrs. Gardner smiled. "It's a small world in Asheville, isn't it?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Jennifer signed the contract that same week. With the help of Mrs. Wilson and some colleagues from school, she managed to furnish the small space with the essentials. Matthew, the physical therapist who treated Emily, helped arrange the furniture to ensure maximum accessibility. "It's perfect, Mom," Emily exclaimed when she saw the room for the first time. Mr. Anderson had installed shelves at just the right height so she could reach her books and drawing supplies without help. Finally, after 6 weeks at Mrs. Wilson's house, mother and daughter were in their own home. Jennifer's relief, however, was short-lived. The morning after the move, she received a legal notice. Michael had filed for a psychological evaluation, claiming Jennifer was mentally unstable and incapable of properly caring for their daughter. "He can't do this," Jennifer protested, showing the document to attorney Sarah in her office. "Emily is happier and more adjusted than ever. She's doing well in school, has made friends. Matthew says she's progressing in therapy." "He can try," the attorney replied firmly, "but he won't succeed. I have good news. The judge ordered a social worker to visit your new home. It's a chance to show how well you're doing." "What about the request for a psychological evaluation?" "We'll turn this in our favor. We'll request psychological evaluations for both parents, including Michael. I have a feeling he won't fare well under scrutiny for his behavior toward Emily these past few years." The social worker's visit was scheduled for the following week. Jennifer spent days cleaning every inch of the small guest house, making sure everything was perfect. Emily, sensing her mother's anxiety, tried to help in her own way, organizing her belongings and even preparing lemonade for the visit. "Everything will be fine, Mom," Emily said the night before as Jennifer braided her hair for bed. "Ms. Rodriguez will like us." "How do you know her name?" Jennifer asked, surprised. Emily shrugged with a small smile. "I heard you talking to attorney Sarah on the phone, and I made a drawing for her." Jennifer kissed the top of her daughter's head, moved by her sensitivity. "You're amazing, you know that?" The social worker, Ms. Rodriguez, was a serious woman around 50 years old, with observant eyes that missed no detail. She carefully inspected the small house, taking notes on the adaptations, the organization, Emily's medications properly stored, and the calendar on the wall with school schedules, therapy sessions, and medication times. "I can see you have a special talent," she remarked upon noticing Emily's drawings hanging on the wall. Emily, initially shy, grew more confident as she talked about her art. She showed her sketchbook, including the drawing she had made especially for the social worker. A thoughtful portrait of two people, a mother and daughter, standing in front of a small house with a flower-filled garden. "This is us," Emily explained, pointing. "And this is our new home. It has a ramp, see? I can go in and out by myself whenever I want to visit the garden and see Mrs. Gardner's roses." Ms. Rodriguez smiled for the first time since arriving. "It's a very beautiful drawing. Emily, may I keep it?" Emily nodded proudly. Before leaving, the social worker asked to speak privately with Jennifer. In the small backyard, while Emily stayed inside finishing another drawing, Ms. Rodriguez got straight to the point. "I'll be honest with you, Mrs. Barnes. I rarely see such a successful adjustment in such a short time. Emily is clearly happy and well cared for here." Jennifer felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "Thank you, we've been trying very hard. However," the social worker checked her notes, "the father claims you're preventing him from contacting his daughter. Is that true?" "No," Jennifer replied, perhaps too quickly. Taking a deep breath, she explained, "Emily has my phone whenever she wants to call him. The problem is Michael rarely answers when she calls, and when he schedules visits, he usually cancels at the last minute." The social worker jotted something down. "I see. Has the girl mentioned missing her father?" Jennifer hesitated. The truth was Emily had stopped asking about Michael in recent weeks. At first, yes, now I think she's gotten used to his absence. "How would you feel if the court ordered regular visits?" "If it's good for Emily, I agree. I never wanted to keep her from her father. I just wanted to protect her from his behavior." Ms. Rodriguez closed her notebook. "My report will be favorable to you, Mrs. Barnes, but I strongly advise considering a regular visitation agreement. Courts value parents who show flexibility and put the child's well-being above their own feelings." When the social worker left, Jennifer felt exhausted but hopeful. That evening, while washing the dinner dishes, she heard her phone ring. It was Michael. "How dare you use our daughter to make me look like a monster?" he snapped as soon as she answered. "That social worker treated me like I was a criminal." "What are you talking about? I didn't even know she was going to visit you." "Don't lie to me. She came with a drawing from Emily, asking why I'm not in the family pictures she makes. As if I'm the one to blame for you running away." Jennifer closed her eyes, understanding. Emily had given the social worker more than just the drawing of their new home. She had probably shown her entire sketchbook, including the drawings she made during school therapy sessions, where she processed her feelings about the separation. "Michael, I didn't tell Emily what to draw or say. She expresses what she feels." "You poisoned her against me." Michael's voice was slurred, likely from alcohol. "But this ends now. I've got the best lawyer in town. I'm filing for full custody and proving you're mentally unstable. You kicked me out of the house with our daughter sick." Jennifer finally lost her patience. "How do you expect a judge to see that? Your word against mine. And guess what? I can give Emily the treatment she deserves. You're living off charity in a tiny back house on an old man's property." Jennifer's heart turned to ice. "How do you know where we're staying?" Michael laughed, a cold sound that made Jennifer shiver. "You really think you can hide in a small town like Asheville? Everyone knows everything here." When she hung up, Jennifer was trembling. How did Michael know about the back house? Who could have told him? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sound from Emily's room. Inside, she found her daughter sitting on the bed, clutching her sketchbook to her chest, silent tears streaming down her face. "Did you hear?" Jennifer asked, sitting beside her. Emily nodded. "Is Daddy mad because I drew?" "No, sweetheart." Jennifer hugged her daughter. "Your father is just confused right now. He's still getting used to the changes. He said he's going to take me away. I don't want to go, Mom. I want to stay with you." Jennifer held her tighter, fighting back her own tears. "No one is taking you from me, Emily, I promise." But it was a hard promise to keep. In the days that followed, Jennifer learned Michael had hired one of the most expensive and influential lawyers in the area. The first move was to challenge the social worker's report, claiming Jennifer had manipulated her. "He's playing dirty," Attorney Sarah remarked during an urgent meeting. "But we have an advantage. The judge assigned to the case is known for prioritizing children's testimony in custody battles, especially when they're mature enough to express their preferences. Emily's only 11. Will the judge really listen to her? Given her condition, it's likely. Children facing health challenges often develop emotional maturity earlier. Plus, we have her drawings and the school psychologist's report confirming Emily expresses herself clearly through art. What if Michael claims I made it up? That I'm manipulating Emily? That's why we need one more thing in our favor. The attorney locked eyes with Jennifer. We need to prove Michael has been absent from Emily's medical care, not just recently, but for a long time. How do I do that? Records. I need you to list every doctor's visit, physical therapy session, and hospitalization Emily's had in the last 2 years. Note which ones Michael attended and which he missed. If possible, we need witnesses, doctors, nurses, therapists, who can confirm your constant presence and his absence. Jennifer spent the night organizing Emily's medical records. The task, though painful as it brought back hard memories, revealed a clear pattern. Out of over 200 appointments and therapy sessions in the last 2 years, Michael had attended fewer than 20. The next morning at the school, Jennifer got a message from Mrs. Gardner asking her to stop by at lunch. Worried, she rearranged her schedule. "Something happened last night you should know about," the older woman said as soon as Jennifer arrived. "A man sat in a car on the corner for almost 2 hours watching our house." "Michael," Jennifer murmured, a chill running through her. "I thought it might be him." Mr. Anderson called our neighbor, a retired security guard. When they approached, the car sped off. "I'm so sorry for dragging you into this." Mrs. Gardner squeezed Jennifer's hand firmly. "Don't apologize. We're on your side. Mr. Anderson already installed security cameras this morning, and our neighbor agreed to keep a closer watch." "I don't know how to thank you." "No need." Her eyes shone with determination. "We know how to recognize a good father, and it's certainly not one who spies from afar instead of knocking on the door and asking how his daughter is doing." That afternoon, as Jennifer helped Emily with her homework, the phone rang. It was Matthew, the physical therapist. "Jennifer, something strange happened today. A man who introduced himself as a journalist showed up at the health clinic asking questions about you and Emily." "A journalist? What kind of questions?" "He wanted to know if you always bring Emily to her sessions, if you've ever shown up upset, things like that. It seemed like he was looking for something incriminating. When I asked for his professional ID, he made excuses and left." "It was Michael," Jennifer concluded, her stomach sinking. "He's trying to find someone who will speak badly of me." "That's what I figured. But listen, I've already warned all the therapists and doctors who treat Emily. No one will fall for it. In fact," Matthew hesitated, "several professionals offered to testify about your dedication to Emily's treatment and about her father's absences." Tears welled up in Jennifer's eyes. Amid all the tension, discovering those unexpected allies was like finding light in the darkness. The custody hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. During that time, Michael intensified his intimidation tactics. Letters from his lawyer arrived almost daily, threatening messages popped up on Jennifer's phone, and his car was spotted again near Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Gardner's house. "He's desperate," Attorney Sarah concluded after analyzing the situation. "That's good for us. Desperate people make mistakes, and Michael made a serious mistake 3 days before the hearing. Emily was in her art class at school when he showed up, demanding to see his daughter. The security guard tried to stop him, explaining he needed authorization from the administration to enter, but Michael shoved the man and stormed into the classrooms, shouting Emily's name. The scene that followed was etched in the memory of everyone who witnessed it. Michael, visibly agitated, burst into the room where Emily was painting quietly. When she saw her father, the girl dropped her brushes, her face pale with fear. "Let's go, Emily," as he demanded, stepping toward her wheelchair. "Enough of this nonsense. You're coming home with me right now." Teacher Catherine tried to intervene. "Sir, you can't just... She's my daughter." Michael knocked over the table, spilling paints and supplies. Emily began to cry, backing her wheelchair into the wall. Her classmates, frightened, huddled in the corner. That's when Mrs. Wilson appeared at the door, flanked by 2 security guards. "Michael Barnes, leave my school immediately before I call the police." You can't keep me from seeing my daughter. Not only can we, but we must when you show up drunk at a school during class hours. Mrs. Wilson pulled out her phone. I have the police on speed dial, and I'm sure the judge in your custody case would love to hear about this little episode. At the mention of the judge, Michael seemed to realize the gravity of his actions. He looked at Emily, still cowering against the wall, at her terrified classmates at the wrecked classroom. Without another word, he let the security guards escort him out. Jennifer, who had been in a meeting when it all happened, found Emily in the nurse's office being treated for a panic attack. The sight broke her heart. He was different, Mom, Emily sobbed as Jennifer held her. I've never seen Daddy like that before. It was a kind lie. Emily had seen her father like that many times, but Jennifer had always tried to protect her, downplaying the situation or distracting her. Now Michael's behavior had gone public, impossible to hide or justify. Mrs. Wilson had already called Attorney Sarah, who arrived at the school in record time. This changes everything, declared the attorney after hearing the witnesses' testimonies. I'll request a restraining order immediately. Michael won't be allowed to approach Emily or you until the hearing. And after that? Asked Jennifer, still trembling with anger and fear. After that, well, I doubt any judge would. Grant custody, even shared, to a father who storms into a school and terrifies not only his own daughter, but an entire classroom of children. The restraining order was granted the same day. For the first time in weeks, Jennifer managed to sleep, without startling awake, knowing Michael was legally barred from coming near them. On the eve of the hearing, while Emily was already asleep, Jennifer sat on the small porch of the guest house, gazing at the stars dotting the mountain sky. Mr. Anderson joined her, bringing 2 cups of tea. Nervous about tomorrow? He asked, handing her one. Very, Jennifer admitted. Even with everything in our favor, I'm still afraid. Michael can be very persuasive when he wants to be. Judges aren't fools, Jennifer. They see cases like yours every day. They know how to spot who truly cares about a child's well-being and who's just fighting to keep control. Jennifer nodded, wanting to believe it. You know what's strangest? Part of me still wonders where I went wrong. If I could have done something differently to keep things from reaching this point. Mr. Anderson studied her for a moment before answering. When my eldest daughter divorced, she blamed herself for months. If I'd been more patient, if I'd noticed the signs sooner. But the truth, Jennifer, is that some people change when faced with adversity. Your daughter got sick, and that revealed who Michael really is. You're not to blame for that. His words brought tears to Jennifer's eyes. All this time she'd carried a quiet guilt, questioning whether her devotion to Emily had somehow pushed Michael away, if she could have balanced her daughter's and husband's needs better. You're an extraordinary mother, Mr. Anderson continued, his voice gentle but firm. Emily is lucky to have you, and tomorrow the judge will see that too. When Jennifer entered the courtroom the next morning, accompanied by Attorney Sarah, she felt a wave of gratitude seeing the people who had come to support her. Mrs. Wilson, Catherine, Matthew, even Ms. Rodriguez, the social worker. Emily had stayed with Mrs. Gardner, spared the stress of the hearing. Michael was already there, seated beside his lawyer, a man in an impeccable suit and a confident expression. Jennifer avoided looking directly at her ex-husband, focusing instead on Attorney Sarah's whispered words of encouragement. The session began with formal introductions. The judge, Judge Richard Miller, was a middle-aged man with a stern expression but attentive eyes. He first listened to Michael's lawyer, who painted Jennifer as an unstable woman who had kidnapped her daughter, depriving her of the comfort of home and access to the health insurance the father provided. My client admits he made a mistake by sending a message in a moment of stress, the lawyer argued. But that doesn't justify Ms. Barnes's extreme actions, who established residence in precarious conditions, keeping the child away from her father and proper treatment. Jennifer clenched her fists under the table, holding back her outrage. Attorney Sarah placed a calming hand over hers before standing to present their side. With surgical precision, Jennifer's attorney dismantled each argument, presenting medical records showing Michael's chronic absence from Emily's appointments and treatments, written statements from healthcare professionals attesting to Jennifer's unwavering commitment. The The text message where Michael kicked mother and daughter out of the house, the favorable report from the social worker, the police, report about the school intrusion, with witness testimonies. Furthermore, Your Honor, concluded Attorney Sarah, we have evidence that Mr. Michael has been harassing my client, surveilling her residence and attempting to intimidate witnesses. This is not the behavior of a concerned father, but of someone obsessed with control. Judge Richard Miller listened carefully, occasionally, taking notes. When both sides concluded their opening statements, he asked an unexpected question. Ms. Barnes, why didn't you request child support immediately after the separation? Jennifer hesitated, surprised by the question. Didn't want to prolong the conflict. I believed we could reach an amicable agreement for Emily's sake. And the child's medical treatment? How is it being funded now? Emily is receiving care through Medicare, Your Honor. We've been well treated, though I pay for some specific medications out of my own salary. The judge turned to Michael. Mr. Barnes, records show the corporate health plan covering your daughter's treatments is still active. Yet, it appears you blocked her access to services despite knowing her condition. Is this accurate? Michael seemed uncomfortable. He consulted his lawyer before answering. I didn't intentionally block it, Your Honor. I just didn't provide the new insurance card when Emily was taken without my consent. I see. The judge made a note. And the school intrusion, how do you justify that behavior? It was a moment of desperation. Weeks had passed without me seeing my daughter. Are there records of formal attempts to visit her? Requests through your attorney, for example? Michael paled. No, Your Honor, I thought it would be more direct. Direct but potentially traumatic for an 11-year-old to see her father storming into her classroom and shouting, "Don't you agree?" Michael's lawyer intervened. Your Honor, my client admits he acted impulsively and deeply regrets it. However, this doesn't negate his rights as a father. The judge nodded slowly. Certainly not. Parental rights, however, come with parental responsibilities. After a few more questions, the judge announced he would hear the witnesses. One by one, key figures in Emily's life confirmed Jennifer's account. Mrs. Wilson spoke about the girl's excellent adjustment at school. Matthew detailed Emily's progress in physical therapy since moving to their new home. Catherine described how art had become an important outlet for the girl and how the incident with Michael had shaken her sense of safety. Finally, Ms. Rodriguez, the social worker, provided her professional assessment. The child is perfectly adjusted and well cared for under her mother's custody. The accommodations made in their current home demonstrate a commitment to her well-being and independence. The concerns raised by the father are not supported by the evidence observed. Once all witnesses had been heard, the judge made a surprising announcement. Before delivering my decision, I'd like to speak with the child, Emily Barnes. Jennifer hadn't expected this. Emily was with Mrs. Gardner, away from the courtroom. Your Honor, Attorney Sarah interjected, the child isn't present today to spare her the stress of these proceedings. Understandable, replied the judge. In that case, I have an alternative. Emily's drawings were mentioned as a form of expression. I'd like to see them. Jennifer Barnes looked at Attorney Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. From the folder she carried, Jennifer pulled out Emily's sketchbook and handed it to the bailiff, who took it to the judge. In silence, Judge Richard Miller examined the sketchbook page by page, his expression visibly softening. In some drawings, Emily depicted herself in her wheelchair. In others, she showed her life at school, her friends, Mrs. Gardner and Mr. Anderson, the garden of their new home. There were drawings of Jennifer reading stories to her, accompanying her to therapy, teaching her to paint. Michael appeared rarely, and when he did, he was always distant, often with a bottle in hand. One drawing in particular caught the judge's attention. It showed Emily crying in her wheelchair while a large, shadowy figure yelled, surrounded by what looked like empty bottles. The judge closed the sketchbook and returned it to the bailiff, who gave it back to Jennifer. After a moment of reflection, Judge Richard Miller announced, having considered all the evidence presented, I rule that sole custody of Emily Barnes be granted to the mother, Jennifer Barnes, with supervised visitation rights for the father, Michael Barnes, every 2 weeks, by prior appointment, and with a qualified professional present. Jennifer felt her legs weaken. Attorney Sarah held her arm, steadying her. Additionally, the judge continued, I order Mr. Michael Barnes to maintain active health insurance for the child, immediately restore her access to medical services, and pay child support amounting to 30% of his income, retroactive for 2 months, the period during which the child was under the mother's exclusive care without paternal contribution. Michael stood up, protesting, Your Honor, this is unfair. I never— Mr. Barnes, the judge interrupted firmly. This decision is based strictly on the evidence presented and the best interests of the child. If you wish to contest it, you have the legal right to appeal. For now, I suggest you reflect on your recent actions and consider what kind of father you want to be for Emily moving forward. Michael's lawyer pulled him back into his seat, whispering something in his ear. Jennifer couldn't fully process what had just happened. She looked at Attorney Sarah, who was smiling broadly. We won, the attorney confirmed quietly. Emily is safe. As they left the courtroom, Jennifer was greeted with hugs from her supporters. Mrs. Wilson, tears in her eyes, held her hands. You deserve this, Jennifer. You fought like a lioness for your daughter. That evening, when Jennifer finally arrived at the cottage, Emily was waiting eagerly on the small porch with Mrs. Gardner, who had baked a cake to celebrate. So, Mom? Emily asked, her big eyes full of hope. Jennifer knelt in front of the wheelchair, holding her daughter's hands. We're staying together, sweetheart. The judge said you'll keep living with me. Emily threw her arms around her mother's neck, sobbing with relief. I knew you'd do it, Mom. You always make everything right. Not everything, Jennifer laughed, wiping her own tears, but the most important things, yes. That night, as Emily slept peacefully in her adapted room, Jennifer sat on the porch with a cup of tea, gazing at the stars. Mr. Anderson joined her, as had become their habit. Happy? He asked. Relieved, Jennifer answered honestly. And a little scared too. Now it's really just the two of us. Just the two of you and all of us around you, Mr. Anderson corrected with a gentle smile. Never underestimate the value of a community, Jennifer. You built one around Emily, people who love her and want the best for her. That's worth more than any court order. Jennifer nodded, touched by the gentleman's wisdom. It was true. Amid all the pain and uncertainty, they had found a new family, people who had chosen and supported them when they needed it most. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, 6 months had passed since the hearing. Life had settled into a new rhythm for Jennifer and Emily. Morning started early, with Jennifer helping her daughter get ready for school. Emily could now handle most of her routine on her own, thanks to the home adaptations and the ongoing work with Matthew, who came twice a week for physical therapy sessions. Jennifer had fully settled into her role as the school's curriculum coordinator, implementing an inclusion program that made the school more accessible for children with different needs. Her work was recognized not just in Asheville, but was beginning to draw attention from educators in neighboring towns. Michael, after his loss in court, stayed away for nearly a month. When he finally reached out, it was through his lawyer to schedule the first supervised visit. Jennifer prepared Emily carefully for the meeting, explaining that her father still loved her, but needed help learning how to show that love in the right way. The first visit was tense. Michael seemed uncomfortable with the court-appointed psychologist present, and Emily was reserved. But in the following visits, something began to shift. Michael showed up on time, sober and prepared, often bringing art supplies for his daughter. Emily, initially cautious, started sharing her latest drawings, explaining the techniques she'd learned from Catherine. He's different, Emily told Jennifer after the 4th visit. Daddy doesn't yell anymore, and he apologized for showing up like that at school. Jennifer hugged her daughter, smiling. People can change when they truly want to, Emily. Maybe your father is finally understanding what's most important in life. What Jennifer didn't tell Emily was the conversation she'd had with Michael after the 3rd visit. He'd asked to speak with her privately, away from their daughter and the supervisor. I'm in a program, he admitted, avoiding her gaze. For alcohol control. It was my boss's condition to keep me after that incident at school. The whole town found out. Jennifer nodded, unsure how to respond. I realized I was turning into my father, Michael continued, his voice almost a whisper. He drank too. He yelled at my mother. He made us leave home once. I didn't know that, Jennifer replied, genuinely surprised. In all their years of marriage, Michael had never spoken about his childhood trauma. I never told anyone. He finally looked at her. I'm not asking to get back together. I know it's over. I just want to be a better father to Emily than mine was to me. That conversation didn't erase the past or magically turn Michael into the perfect father, but it was a start. In the weeks that followed, he truly seemed to be trying. He began asking about Emily's treatments, offered to accompany her to important doctor's appointments, and even showed up to watch her participate in a school art exhibition. Life moved forward, with small victories and daily challenges. Emily continued to make progress in physical therapy. Her drawings grew in depth and expressiveness, and Catherine, her art teacher, suggested entering her in a national competition for young artists. Are you sure? Emily asked uncertainly. There are so many talented artists out there. None like you, Catherine replied with conviction. Your perspective is unique, Emily. The way you see the world and put it on paper, that's a gift. The contest theme was overcoming, something Emily was very familiar with. For weeks she worked on her special project, refusing to show it to anyone, not even Jennifer. It's a surprise, the girl insisted, quickly covering the drawing whenever someone came near. The big submission day was approaching, and Emily seemed more nervous by the minute. The night before the deadline, Jennifer found her still awake, working furiously in her room. Emily, it's past midnight, Jennifer exclaimed, surprised. You need to rest. It's almost done, Mom, Emily replied, her eyes fixed on the paper. Just a few more details. Jennifer sat on the edge of the bed, watching her daughter work. Even without seeing the full drawing, she could see the concentration and passion with which Emily applied each stroke. A wave of pride so intense washed over her that her eyes filled with tears. You know, no matter the contest results, you're already a winner to me, she said softly. Emily looked up from the paper, smiling. We both are, Mum. We've overcome everything together, haven't we? The next morning, Emily finally let Jennifer see the complete drawing. It was an extraordinary composition, a woman and a girl in a wheelchair crossing a narrow bridge over an abyss. Behind them, dark, threatening shadows. Ahead, a path opening to a sunlit valley where small figures waved, welcoming them. The technique was impressive for someone so young, but the most touching part was the expression on the faces of the two central figures, pure determination, no fear, looking straight ahead. Emily, Jennifer could barely speak. It's beautiful. It's our story, Mom, Emily explained, pointing out details Jennifer hadn't noticed at first. In the shadows behind them were broken bottles and a blurred male figure. In the valley ahead, the waving figures were clearly recognizable. Mrs. Wilson, Catherine, Matthew, Mrs. Gardner, and Mr. Anderson. And who's that? Jennifer asked, noticing a male figure farther back near the edge of the valley as if deciding whether to enter. Emily hesitated. That's Dad. I left space for him too, if he keeps getting better. The tears Jennifer had been holding back finally spilled over. She hugged her daughter tightly, amazed by her wisdom and compassion. Emily's drawing not only made it into the contest, but received an honorable mention. The award ceremony took place in New York City on a sunny spring Saturday. Mrs. Wilson arranged a bus so all of Emily's supporters could attend, teachers, classmates, neighbors, even some healthcare workers who'd followed her progress. Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Gardner stood out in the front row, their pride unmistakable. To everyone's surprise, Michael also showed up, quietly sitting in the back. When Emily spotted him from the stage, she gave a shy wave. He returned a small smile. After the ceremony, as people gathered to congratulate Emily, Michael approached. Jennifer. She has your artistic talent, he said, keeping a respectful distance. I could never even draw a decent stick figure. Jennifer smiled. Actually, I think that talent is all hers. She's been fascinated by colors and shapes since she was little. An uncomfortable silence hung between them until Michael said, "I hit 6 months in the program this week. I'm better, clearer. I'm happy for you, Michael, truly. And I wanted to tell you," he hesitated, choosing his words carefully, "you did the right thing, leaving, protecting Emily, building this life for the two of you. I was lost, Jennifer. I still am in many ways, but at least now I can see that." Before Jennifer could respond, Emily wheeled closer in her chair, proudly displaying her honorable mention certificate. "Look, Dad." They said my drawing was emotionally resonant and technically impressive for someone so young. What do you think that means? Michael knelt to his daughter's level, truly looking into her eyes for perhaps the first time in years. "It means you can make people feel something when they look at your art. That's a superpower, you know." Emily laughed, delighted by his answer. "Do you want to join us for lunch? Mrs. Gardner made a reservation at the restaurant nearby. Everyone will be there." Michael glanced at Jennifer, a silent question in his eyes. She hesitated only a moment before giving a slight nod. "I'd love to," he told his daughter, "if your mother agrees." "Of course she does," Emily declared confidently. "Look, she's smiling." And Jennifer truly was. Not because she imagined any romantic reconciliation, that chapter was firmly closed, but because she saw a future where Emily could have a healthy relationship with both parents, even if they lived separate lives. A future where cordiality replaced bitterness and Emily's well-being remained at the center of every decision. That celebratory lunch became a milestone in their new family dynamic. Michael sat between Matthew and Mr. Anderson, initially uneasy but gradually relaxing as he found himself accepted without judgment. Emily wheeled proudly among the guests, showing off her certificate, while Jennifer chatted with Catherine about expanding the school's art therapy program. At one point, Jennifer stepped back, watching the scene with gratitude and admiration. Her daughter, who 2 years earlier had lost mobility in her legs, now radiated confidence and joy. The hardships hadn't vanished. Emily would still face lifelong challenges, but they'd found a support system, a community willing to adjust to her needs rather than expect her to adapt to a world not designed for her. Mrs. Gardner approached, offering a glass of juice. "What's on your mind? You seem miles away." Jennifer smiled. "I'm thinking about how life takes unexpected turns. If someone had told me a year ago we'd all be here today, celebrating Emily's award, with Michael sitting peacefully at the table, I'd never have believed it." "Life rarely goes the way we plan," the older woman mused. "What matters is how we respond when it veers off track." "Like a warrior princess." Jennifer laughed, remembering the stories she'd told Emily. "Exactly like a warrior princess," Mrs. Gardner agreed, her wise eyes twinkling. And Emily had the best teacher. In the months that followed, life continued to unfold positively. Emily's award-winning drawing was published in a national catalogue and caught the attention of a scholarship program for young artists with disabilities. She was selected for an intensive summer workshop in the capital, an opportunity that left her glowing with excitement. Jennifer, meanwhile, was invited to present her inclusion program at an educational conference. Her work began inspiring other schools to implement similar changes, creating more accessible and welcoming environments for children with diverse needs. Michael stayed committed to his recovery and gradually became a more consistent, positive presence in Emily's life. Supervised, visits eventually gave way to more natural outings, and he took a more active role in her medical and educational decisions. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, nearly a year after the custody hearing, the small community that had formed around Jennifer and Emily gathered in Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Gardner's garden for lunch. Emily, who had recently begun using crutches for short distances, practiced her careful steps under Matthew's watchful eye. "Take it slow, no rush," the physical therapist guided. "Remember what we talked about with weight distribution." From a nearby table, Jennifer watched the scene with a full heart. Emily had grown not just physically but in resilience and self-confidence. Her drawings, which had once been a way to process pain and fear, now explored broader themes, though always with that unique sensitivity that set her apart. Mrs. Wilson joined Jennifer admiring Emily's progress. "You know what impresses me most about her?" the principal remarked. "Her ability to forgive, to move forward without resentment. Most adults I know could never do that." Jennifer nodded, understanding completely. "She teaches me every day about patience, adaptation, finding beauty in the most unlikely places. And you taught her the most important thing of all, that it's possible to rebuild no matter how hard the path seems." Mrs. Wilson gently squeezed Jennifer's hand. "You two are true warriors." The term made Jennifer smile, reminding her of the warrior princess stories she used to tell Emily. Now she realized that, from the beginning, they had been writing their own story of courage and determination. That evening, after a day full of laughter and good company, Jennifer helped Emily get ready for bed. The girl seemed thoughtful as her mother braided her hair, a nightly ritual they'd kept since Emily was little. "Mom," Emily said suddenly, "do you remember that night in the hospital, when you got Dad's message?" Jennifer felt a slight tightness in her chest. "I remember, of course." "Were you scared?" "Very," Jennifer admitted honestly. "But at the same time, something inside me knew we'd find a way." Emily was silent for a moment, processing. "You know what I admire most about you? That you never gave up. Not on me, not on yourself." Jennifer finished the braid and turned Emily to look her in the eyes. "Not for a second, Emily. And I never will." "I know." Emily smiled, that radiant smile that lit up her entire face. "That's why I drew that, you know, the two of us on the bridge. Because even when everything was dark and scary, you always looked ahead toward the light." Jennifer hugged her daughter, speechless. There, in the small guesthouse room that had become a true home, she realized the plan she'd made in moments of despair had worked, but not in the way she'd initially imagined. The plan wasn't just about financial independence or a place to live. It was about building a support system, rebuilding trust, and showing Emily that no matter what obstacles arose, there would always be a way forward. And on that path, they would never be alone. End of story. Dear listener, your presence has been with us every step of this journey of resilience. What did you think of Jennifer's strength? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, your likes and subscriptions are the fuel that keeps us sharing more heart-touching stories. Until next time.